Hey everyone, it's Jamie from Independent Straight NOLA and Seasons of Ritual, and I'm here with my good friend Helen, the Crimson Cadaverous, and we are sweltering here in New Orleans.
Hello,
It's
yes, we're melting.
21st is summer, but it's already here.
Yes.
Yes, okay. So let's get into this week, which is funny because the week also starts off hot.
Yes.
Because Monday, the moon will be in Aries. We are for the week of 6/12 through 6/18, I guess I should preface that as well.
6/12 through 6/18, somehow we're in the middle of June already.
Here we are. Isn't that wild?
I don't know how that happened.
I don't either. And now it's summery. Now it's hot.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah. So we're chasing the shade is what we're doing.
Exactly.
Out front of CR Coffee, I guess I should say. We're here representing the brand. But anyway, so the week starts off hot. I said it starts off hot with the moon in Aries on Monday.
Yes.
It'll be trining Mars, Lilith, and Pallas Athena, who are all in Leo.
Yes.
So that's more fire.
Yep.
It'll be conjunct Chiron.
Right.
And then sextiling, which is a good energy. The sun, more fire, who is in Gemini.
So just a lot of fire basically on Monday.
Yeah.
And I feel like we kind of need that because things have been a little heavy. We're coming out, we're still kind of coming out of that heavy fog of eclipse season.
Yeah.
I know that sounds, crazy because it was over a month ago.
It was a big eclipse season.
Yeah. And I think this is kind of almost like the burn off that like old
Stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like this is like that fire we need to get through those old stories and be like, those aren't my stories anymore.
Yes.
Conjunct Chiron, where you're just like, F this shit. I know, I was almost swearing, then I stopped and I kind of swore again, sorry. But really getting through it, right? Because Aries sextiling the sun in Gemini, right? It's lighting up, oh, we have more options.
Yeah.
Right? It's not, oh, I'm stuck in these stories. It's, oh, wait, shit, I'm getting rid of these stories. Let's go through this.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've got Mars, who is that divine masculine, that spiritual warrior, and Pallas Athena,
Yes.
who is Minerva.
Yes.
And actually, I think on Wednesday is the Minerva celebration.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I can double check for that. So
that's perfect timing.
right, and she's the goddess of wisdom and war.
Yes.
Yeah, and then we have our sweet, sweet Lilith in there as well.
Yes.
So this
coming to liberate us from anything that is inauthentic.
right. So Monday we start off with a bang.
Yes.
Tuesday, the moon in Aries.
Yes.
Well, it's still there. It'll be conjunct Iris, right?
Eris.
Sorry.
Yes.
I'm kind of dumb today. We may or may not have
Once
gotten
it becomes-
hammered last night.
Oh,
I
Lord.
know.
Well, and also it's above 90 degrees.
Okay,
so,
that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Tuesday, moon will still be in Aries, conjunct Eris.
Yes.
Okay, sextiling Juno and Gemini.
Yes. And squaring Pluto.
In who has now moved back into Capricorn.
Right.
Right.
So I feel like there's a lot of removal energy here.
Yeah.
And this makes sense because the moon is waning. We're in that last little bit, before we get into the new moon.
Right.
A lot of loud energy today.
I know, out here on Magazine Street.
We're talking about Eris, we're talking about Aries, it makes sense. But yeah, so like square to Pluto, just kind of like deep excavation, conjunct Eris, like releasing whatever is inauthentic.
And sextiling Juno and Gemini to me is making these new relationships with yourself, right? If you're not carrying those old stories, well, what is your new story and how are you making that new relationship with yourself?
Yeah, and once that moon moves into Taurus,
Later in the day.
right, we get a conjunction with the North Node. So that is like, we're kind of like locking in on the direction we're supposed to be going in.
Yeah.
And all these things that we've kind of been either releasing, bringing up, transmuting, what have you, is also we have this like clear path forward.
Yeah, it's perfect. I can't tell if I can see ourselves on the
No, I
thing.
think
Sorry.
we're good.
Okay. Wednesday, the moon will still be in Taurus.
Yes.
Conjunct Jupiter, who's in Taurus.
Yep. So big and beautiful, and
Right. But then it is squaring Venus, Mars, Lilith, and Pallas Athena, who are all in Leo.
Yes.
Right, which is our Leo. Leo is our self-confidence in who we are. But I feel like this is just like a reality check in a good way.
Yeah.
Because it's also sextiling Saturn, who's in Pisces.
Yeah, and I see a lot of actual, like, with all these planetary bodies being together in Leo, I see a lot of emotional strength.
Yeah.
And so, like, the moon in Taurus, it's like, kind of like our emotional stability.
Right.
But also, being kind of challenging our emotional strength, which
Okay.
is a little bit different because
Right.
again with our strength there's certain challenges that come from that, you know, shifting, changing, things of that nature.
Right, and it kind of goes back to what we were discussing a little bit off camera when we were talking about Gemini, right? And you see them as one being spirit and one being 3D,
Yes.
right? So that I feel like goes with that moon in Taurus. As you said, it was like spiritual strength
Yes.
and also human strength, I guess
Yes.
to say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the strength of humanity, like
Yeah.
just the humanity in us. Yeah. And the compassion and the empathy that comes along with that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, that sextile with Saturn, you know, I see that as a spiritual strengthening as well.
I do too. I mean too, because that sextile with Saturn's in Pisces, you guys, and you know it will be there for 3 years. Thank God. I say that now. We'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, seems like a good thing. I think it is. But it's just that grounding.
Yes.
Yeah. To
Yeah.
Pisces, who needs it?
Oh, yeah. We definitely need that with
Yeah.
Pisces because we went through a very big Pisces period recently.
Yeah.
So we're kind of, you know,
That Earth.
forming some foundations within that spiritual intangibility.
Right. So that moon is more spiritual. Taurus is Earth.
Yes.
Pisces is mystic.
Yes.
Saturn is more tangible. So that's good.
Yep.
That's good. Okay, Thursday, the moon, Thursday's a big day.
Yes.
Okay, the moon will still be in Taurus.
Yes.
And in the morning, it will conjunct Uranus and Vesta, who are also in Taurus.
Yes.
At the same time, it will sextile Neptune and Pisces.
Yep.
And then it will trine Ceres in Virgo,
Yes.
and also Pluto, who is in Capricorn.
Yes.
So that moon in Taurus, that conjunction with Uranus and Vesta, that's lighting us up, right? That's kind of like that square from the day before, where all those planets were in Leo, right?
Mm-hmm.
Weren't able to kind of they were towing the line, but it's like the next day, Uranus and Vesta get to light up whatever it is that needs to be lit up.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Like, I almost see that as like the perfect combination of like spiritual awakening
Yeah.
energy.
Yeah.
Because Uranus, of course, you know, is awakening higher octaves of the mind, and Vesta speaks to our spiritual devotions and rituals, and it's like almost like imagine like lighting a brand new candle in your altar, like that kind of energy of like, but having like so much intention in that candle that you're basically like starting kind of like a fresh new practice.
Yeah, that's a good word too, to use fresh and new, especially
Yes.
like coming in this week.
And a sextile to Neptune is
Yeah.
like, you know, giving us like kind of that dreamy, intuitive vibe anyways for the day.
That mystical energy that we need. All right, training Ceres, how do you say it? Ceres in Virgo, which is Earth,
Yes.
and Pluto in Capricorn, which is Earth. That's a lot of
Yes.
Earth right there.
So that's kind of like a loose, grand Earth trine.
Yeah.
So very harmonious energy of stability and
Yeah.
grounding,
Yeah.
and connection to the Earth.
A new way of working. Ceres in Virgo was resolving.
Yes.
Um,
Resolving the way that we nurture ourselves in
Yeah.
the Earth.
yeah,
Pluto revealing things to us that we need to understand about this.
right. And Capricorn is work, so
Yes.
that's good.
Yes.
No, like it's like practical, you guys, practical energy. And no, like at the beginning of the week, like 'cause this is on Thursday, if you don't feel like it's all coming together, just keep sitting with it, because there are those squares in the week. That's where that tension's going to be in order for it to figure itself out.
Yes.
But by the time that we get to Thursday, things are going to start making more sense.
Yep.
Also, that day, Mercury and Gemini, right?
Yes.
Mercury rules Gemini.
Yep.
And it'll be squaring Saturn, who is in Pisces.
Yes.
So that's a good conversation day.
Yes, it's really a good conversation day, especially because Saturn is in Pisces.
Yeah.
And so Pisces is like that higher, you know, intuitive mind. And squaring Mercury in Gemini, which is going to be like a more tangible, you know, earthly mind, so to speak.
Right.
Basically kind of challenging us to find a balance between the two.
Right. And seeing like if you don't have the answer that day, you can keep going forward.
Yes.
It's okay.
Absolutely. And like kind of accepting that like we're working through things with our mind,
Yeah.
but we're not going to have it all like
Figured out.
Yeah.
Right. Especially with Saturn and Pisces, because Pisces is going to keep opening things up to you. And like you always say, it's the intangibleness of it all.
Yes.
Right? So it's also a good day to realize like you don't really have to have it all figured out. As long as you kind of feel it, then
Yeah.
you'll know it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, we're definitely feeling our way through this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And figure out different ways how to communicate that, you
Yeah.
know? Especially since we're releasing all those old stories.
Right.
And then also on that day, as you had mentioned earlier off camera, Sedna
Yes.
enters Gemini. And Sedna is the far reaches of the universe.
Yes, she's definitely in the far reaches of our solar system. She was only discovered early 2000s. I think it was 2003, 2004, you know, about the time that they were following her. And she is a dwarf planet, but she has this like really interesting, like crazy elliptical orbit that makes her go up and way down compared to like all the other planets that are right here.
Oh, Lord.
And because of that, she ends up spending a long time. She's got like an 11,000 year orbit.
That's what I thought. I was reading that and I'm like, I think this is what this means, but I wasn't sure.
Oh yeah, no, it's insane. But then she ends up, because of that weird elliptical orbit she has, she ends up spending sometimes in a sign like 1,000 years and other times like a few decades.
Shit.
So she's in the shorter period right now because she's getting closer and closer to the Earth.
Okay.
Where she gets like really close compared to where she's like her furthest part out.
Gotcha.
So she's
entering Gemini.
Yes. And she's really interesting because we're still kind of contemplating her because we've only known about her for about 20 years. But she's named Sedna for the Inuit goddess of the deep sea. And there's a lot of different like versions of her story.
Okay.
But the main thing with her is that she angered her father in some way. I think something to do with who she married. Some stories it was she married a dog, she married a bird, you know, married the guy she wanted. You know, there's various different versions. And he gets mad at her, takes her out to sea, and throws her off the boat. She's clinging to the side of the boat. He cuts her fingers off. Her fingers and her sink to the sea.
Yeah.
Fingers turn into the sea mammals. She sinks to the bottom and finds that, like, by hitting rock bottom, it's like she's hitting spiritual transcendence.
So you guys just let things go. If you're white knuckling onto things to hold on to them, that is your red flag, or whatever flag to be like, let it go. You don't need to keep holding. You don't need to be dragged out to sea with this shit anymore.
Yes, and with her entering Gemini, it's really interesting because she's been in Taurus since the 60s.
Okay.
About the time that we, you know, started like the environmental movement and understanding, you know, things about our planet, kind of shifting in that way. With her going into Gemini, I think we're going to see kind of a different shift on like a larger scale in the concept of Gemini basically being like the twins of one earthly and one spiritual, and us accepting that, you know, earthly part of ourselves and that spiritual part of ourselves as a way of understanding just our connection to the universe.
Yeah, and I think that kind of goes back into what we were saying earlier about you don't have to know it, like you don't have to know it like logically, but if spiritually you're feeling it, and I think that fits really well into what you just said right there, honestly.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. And like, I think, you know,
because I always see Gemini, the connection between the heart and the mind.
Yes. Yeah. And I think we're meant to understand that because again, there's many different ways of, you know, relating to the energy of her as a planetary body, just as there is to any of them. And in a way, I've almost been kind of thinking about her like the tower. Which I know a lot of times, you know, we say the tower. We say the tower and we go, oh God, you know, I threw down the tower. You know, in the scary movie, it's like, But we always have to remember, next comes the star. The star is like rejuvenation, rebirth, you know, renewal, star shining down on us, restart.
Right, and the star is Aquarius.
Right, exactly. But so it's almost like she's like helping us get to that like way down below position.
Well, do you know what's really
so that we can go
right? Yeah, and what's also, you brought up the tower. And a lot of times, I've heard people speak of the tower as Uranus because it is those revelations.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's so many different ways to interpret that energy. Where it's like, you know, if the tower comes crashing down on you, is it the end of the world or is it an opportunity?
A brand new beginning, yeah.
Right. Can you build a brand new tower that has like a better kitchen and like more bedrooms and, you know, a pool or something?
A pool, yeah, I was going to say a covered deck.
Right.
With a fan.
You know, you can always rebuild.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so Friday.
Yes.
The moon moves into Gemini?
No, still in Gemini, because we moved into Gemini later in the day on Thursday.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
So moon starts in Taurus and then moves into Gemini.
Yes.
So Friday, the moon will still be in Gemini.
Yes.
It'll be conjunct Mercury, so we get a good conversation going.
Yep, good conversation going with square to Saturn, which is like conversations about our foundations, our boundaries.
But also, like, maybe this conversation, like, wow, there's a change in me. What is it? I'm not sure yet, but I know there's this change, right?
Yeah.
That square, you know, is bringing up like that, something, you feel something differently.
Yes.
Like, we always, you know, you and I don't ever say squares are bad, but it is definitely something where you're like, wow, I'm going to think about that a little different.
It's a challenge to the mind.
Yeah. And then we sextiling Venus, who's in Leo. I love that.
Which again, checking in with our value system.
Yeah.
You know, checking in with our self-worth, which again is like making sure, you know, we're building solidly is definitely part of our self-worth.
Yeah. And the sun in Gemini
Yes.
will be sextiling Eris and Aries.
Yes, which I think is actually really beautiful because a sextile is going to be a harmonious, easy flowing energy, and the sun is going to be like our true self, and Eris is helping us remove anything that isn't our true self.
Yeah.
So I think, again, that's an energy we're going to want to delightfully surrender to, because I think they're going to come in and they're just going to be like, get rid of all this.
Yeah.
You don't need this.
If it starts to freak you guys out, then notice that. Like, you know, like, oh shit, all this is, it's okay. Start to celebrate. There's change happening. We talk about change all the time here in our videos. You know?
Right, and we've got all this Gemini energy that's like, you know, telling us to be curious, telling us to kind of go
think
with
about
that
it differently.
flow.
Yeah, go with the flow is a big thing that.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
We kind of have to. I mean, I don't think we would have survived if we hadn't gone with the flow recently. I mean, really.
Yeah. Okay, Saturday the moon will be in Gemini.
Yes.
So in Saturday is our new moon, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so it's new
way
moon Gemini?
late in the day. Yeah, almost towards, you know, actually almost towards the 18th. So if you're Eastern time, it will be the 18th.
Yeah. And so it's important, you guys, that is the day of rest. So we've been working on these intentions. You know, we've been seeing what's going away, you know, how we're doing this. And so on this a dark moon, that's the time of rest. That's when the divine feminine and the divine masculine are together. They get to be quiet. It's a good time to be, you know, with yourself. This new moon in Gemini will be sextiling Mars, Lilith, Palpatino, and Leo, and Chiron and Eris. Chiron and Eris are in Aries, and then Mars, Lilith, Palpatino are all in Leo. So that's a really intense conversation with ourselves on this day.
And it's like, honestly, it's really firing us up.
Yeah.
You know, and it's almost like kind of like lighting that spark of inspiration that I think has been, you know, either on the back burner or maybe blew out entirely over this like time that
also
of intensity, I would say.
Right, and I also think like that spark of inspiration has been like covered up with a bunch of bullshit.
Yes.
And now that we're like cleaning out the debris and cleaning out those old stories, guess what? It gets lit up again.
Yeah.
You know? And so this is a good time to start seeing that and start really claiming who you are.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, on that day, we have something really interesting happen that same time as that, or same day as the Gemini new moon, is Saturn stationing retrograde.
Right, which is also going to make this week a lot of energy because of Saturn stationing retrograde, you guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I've kind of been reading Saturn in a really interesting way recently. I've been reading him as like the, I guess you would say physical embodiment of self-love.
Oh, nice. That's great. Yeah.
Because, you know, a lot of times, like, the old school kind of, like, you know, low vibe version of, like, looking at Saturn is, like, he's restriction, he's, like, mean, he's, like, you know, the stern daddy figure.
He's going to fuck everything up. Here comes Saturn to ruin everything. Yeah.
And really, you know, as I always say with Saturn, like, all he wants us to do is our homework before we go out and play.
Yeah.
He's like, build, you know, your blocks, like, build your solid foundation, get your shit done. And the reason why we're doing that is so that we can be in our highest, like, point of self-love.
Right.
Because we're setting ourselves up for success. And isn't that self-love?
Yes. Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. And then when these things come in or these old stories come up, you're like, no, wait, that's not my story anymore because I have this new foundation.
And I think with Saturn,
yeah,
I think with Saturn in Pisces stationing retrograde, it's like almost kind of like undoing those old stories that we told ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, that almost were like so ingrained in us that we thought, you know, almost we thought were like religion.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't have to, it's not.
This is the
It's
revolution.
not what we must live by.
Yeah.
You know, we can tell ourselves, you know, better narratives and build better foundations for ourselves based on what's right for us.
Right. And that is our authentic for us.
Yes. And Mercury sextile Venus that same day. That totally supports that.
Yeah.
Again, the narrative, you know, of self-worth that we're telling ourselves.
Yeah. Light it up.
Yeah. Like, again, like we are worthy.
Right.
And the more we tell ourselves that, the more we live like that.
Right. The more it sets that foundation.
Right. That we do start this new beginning.
Yeah. Okay. On the 18th, the moon will still be in Gemini.
Yes.
Okay. And it's going to bring that square in. It's going to square Neptune, who is in Pisces.
Yes.
And Ceres, who is in Virgo.
Yes.
But it's also going to be conjunct Juno,
Yes.
who is relationships.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's definitely like a commitment aspect to
Yeah.
this new moon energy, which will still be in that, you know, next
Yeah.
day, of course, where it's like, again, committing to ourselves. I really feel like committing to ourselves, and I would say specifically our spiritual selves because of
Right.
that square with Neptune.
Yeah, because I was going to say with that, and Ceres and Virgo, it is like just kind of resolving the fact that maybe you don't have it all figured out, but you
No.
sure as fuck know who you're not anymore.
Exactly.
You know, so I'm going to go this way. Yeah.
And resolving the fact that, like, you got to stay in your own lane first.
Yeah.
Take care of yourself first.
Yeah. Just the first. Yeah.
You know, even if you haven't saved the world, that's okay.
Yeah, save your world.
Right.
Yeah.
That's okay.
The moon will then move into Cancer later that day, which is great. The
Yes.
home.
Yes.
Sextiling North Node, that's good vibes. And Jupiter, who's in Taurus. So that's like
Yes.
really nurturing. We're still in that dark moon phase, so that's
Yeah.
really beautiful. Trining Saturn in Pisces, so it's like you're feeling good. You're feeling supported in this new way of seeing yourself in spirit.
Yes.
And then the Sun in Gemini will square Neptune in Pisces.
Yes. And I really like that energy too, because again, it's it is challenging us to be.
To say we got this. It's like
Yeah.
Sun in Gemini is looking over at Neptune, who is in Pisces, and we're looking back at each other, and we're just like, I respect you, we got this.
Yes.
Let's do this together. You know, it is like face to face. You know, you don't have to have it logically figured out, but just knowing like, that guy is super strong, that person's super strong, that Neptune in Pisces is strong, and I'm looking you right in the face, so we're going to do this together. Not as an adversary, but as a friend, as an ally, you know, as like, okay, let's do this.
Yeah. I almost feel like, you know, when you were saying that, I was thinking about the Sun squaring Neptune is almost kind of like the concept of namaste. Like the concept of like the God in me sees God in you. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
As far as I know.
Yeah. And again, like the Sun is our ego, you know, so like our self, but then Neptune is kind of like our connection to the everything.
Right. Which again, Gemini, right? Two.
Yeah.
Right? Not
Yep.
duality, but two.
Right.
Yeah.
And
So.
yeah, this idea that we can like be both at the same time.
Right.
And that's okay.
Right. Showing up, masculine and feminine, showing up at the same time.
Yes.
Being both spiritually and 3D, I don't know the right word, but at the same
Yeah.
time. So yeah. Lots of energy moving through here, you guys. It's going to be a big week. So that's starting off hot, ending like quietly, I think, but like being held, you know, but also be confident in this new way of seeing yourselves, you know, be gentle with yourself in this new way of seeing yourselves, but know that it's here.
Yes.
It is definitely here.
Yes. And I mean, I think it's important to remember that we continue to go through a lot of major shifts.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's okay. It's okay for you to just congratulate yourself on just being here.
Yeah, for sure.
You don't have to have it all figured out.
Nope. And this this reading says so.
I mean, I think it would be kind of boring if we had it all figured out.
Yeah. You guys, so you can take some naps this week. Take some rest. I can tell
Definitely.
you that.
Definitely rest.
Okay, you guys, if you want to get in touch with me or Helen, Instagram, YouTube, websites. Also, Helen, you can reach her through Medusa's Lair. I'm still running the Zoom special, where if you guys buy a set of 3, it's half price. So if you guys want some help doing this, also, Heidi and I are going to be doing an intuition workshop. So I'm going to put that up on Instagram as well. So you guys look for that. So thank you once again, my friend.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry I was kind of hung over today. I don't do that very often anymore, which is like, if you knew me in my old days, you'd be shocked that I don't do it anymore, but I really don't. So thank you guys. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.